Hey, great Monday afternoon, great Monday evening. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Chosen Pen. My name is Dr. Anissa Short, and as usual, well, not as usual, because I missed y'all last week. Did y'all miss me? I am back again to talk to some fabulous women in conjunction, of course, with my mentor, Dr. Norma McLaughlin. And we are going to be talking a little bit to a few phenomenal women who have co-authored a book. But before we get into that, Dr. Norma, hello.
Hello.
Anything you want to share with those who might be watching live or maybe watching the replay later?
I would love to say that these authors that we have or we're focusing on this month are the real true authors of Free to Choose, Chosen Pen, and all of that. They are the initial authors in our process of actually writing. And in having that, I know Miss Suzette is going to introduce herself, but I would like to, again, personally thank her, because without her, we probably would not be where we are today. She has been very instrumental in working with each of our authors, authoring suggestions, telling me what I need to do and not need to do as far as getting books published and getting things out there in the best avenues which to pursue to do that. And of course, Miss Nicole was one of our first authors as well. As a matter of fact, she was the author with me in my very first publication. So she's been with me the entire time. So I'd like to say thanks to both of you for the works that we've done and the pace that we've done them, as well as for all the time that we'll put in, and that I look forward to us getting back on track after COVID and getting some more either anthologies or books published.
Thank you, Dr. Norma. Before we jump in and meet these phenomenal women, I want to take a minute to maybe remind all of you or inform some of you how you can connect with Chosen Pen Publishing. Now, of course, we're on social media. That's pretty simple to say. So you can find us, Chosen Pen Publishing, obviously on Facebook and also Instagram. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, because all of our podcasts are going to be shared there. So whether you watch our podcast live or want to watch the replay, or you may want to revisit some of the podcasts in the past, they are all housed within our YouTube platform. It is so important to us that we have our, let's say, followers, our friends, stay connected with us, because there are a lot of things that Chosen Pen Publishing hosts throughout the year. As you know, we are a publication entity. We are a publication company, but we offer conferences. We also host writing workshops. There's also this platform, this podcast, where we offer opportunity for authors to be spotlighted. You don't have to be a Chosen Pen publisher. Anyone who has written a book is open and welcome to be a part of our platform, because this platform is really the number one mission is to give exposure to those who have written books, and especially for those who may not have otherwise a platform for which to gain any exposure or following. So again, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Be sure to connect with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Make sure you stay connected, because we do anticipate having a lot of fascinating and very exciting and services and projects that's going to support those who are endeavoring to walk into becoming an author and being a part of the literary world, to existing authors on how to hone in on your skills to become more sharpened in your writing skills. And then, of course, if there is an interest on exposing, gaining more exposure, we have collaborations and relationships with others that will offer you an opportunity to receive exposure nationally as well as internationally. Lady Norma, any more you want to share on that before we dive right into our interview?
No, but I did want to say that we're doing this forgiveness because, you know, I'm the person who always talks about forgiveness, but we're leading up to our Forgiveness Women's Conference in Africa. So this part we're talking about with almost a lot of different authors on the subject of forgiveness, which to me, I'm telling everybody this time, is the foundation for mental health wellness. So that is our big push. So you'll see and you'll hear us talking a lot about forgiveness. We've added with Miss Anissa forgiveness in the marketplace. So there are different avenues that we can lead towards forgiveness, and hopefully you will hear them on this particular platform as we move into the month of March.
You know, I will say that since you mentioned it, Dr. Norma, when Dr. Norma first started with her platform of forgiveness, a lot of times we associate forgiveness with being a spiritual concept or a principle within the religious or spiritual community. But as a result of my being mentored by her, I have learned so much more about how forgiveness affects us in so many different ways. We talked about that during the latter part, the last quarter of 2022. We're continuing again with this platform. I think I see now even the more why she's taken this concept, this principle, this lifestyle, and ran with it, because it affects every aspect of our lives in so many different ways. And so this Free to Choose Forgiveness anthology, Dr. Norma, I think you may have been the spearhead or the leading the lead person on this project, and everyone came together to complete it and make and added their contributions. Why don't you give us a little bit of information about the why behind the book, and then after that we'll introduce allow the other authors to introduce themselves and share a little bit about how their segment, their chapter added value to the book.
Well, this particular piece came about, of course, for me, way back when we were having Bible studies. But again, we also had group meetings or writers' meetings that we met once a month. And of course, we were always talking about the different topics and different subjects that we could address. And when we talked about forgiveness, I think everyone said, oh, well, I think I have a story. But we ended up not only having, I think I probably was the only one who had a real story, because we had, this anthology covers not only nonfiction, but it covers fiction and stories about other people's lives. So it was a conglomeration of a lot of different things based on our writers group. When we would get together, we would have stories. And for instance, we had one author who wrote the story, and then when she was telling that story, it was so pungent and so that it touched all of us, even before the story was actually released to the public. So the stories have been very, very, as I say, we don't know who they're for, but we know God has someone waiting, someone desperately waiting. And at that particular month, all of us within the group were waiting for that particular story in the way it touched us. So I would say we come together as we came together as a group, and based on those types of things is how we decide what we're actually going to write. I've got some talking about forgiveness, so they probably had a little more influence than usual, but.
I got you. I understand. We follow you. Anyone who knows Dr. Norma understands you follow her carefully. Now, we've had Nicole Smith as a part of our conversations with Chosen Pen, so she's no stranger. So before we reintroduce her or allow herself to reintroduce herself, let's talk to this Miss Suzetta Perkins. She looks like she might be an interesting person to get to know. So Miss Suzetta, thanks again for joining us this afternoon or this Monday evening. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? How you were a part of this project, and a little snippet of what your contribution felt like or sounds like, or the story in and of itself.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm truly blessed to be here today. My name is Suzetta Perkins. I am the author of 17 novels, several anthologies, and still writing. I just finished a screenwriting class, and so I'm actually writing screenplays. I've completed 2, still in the process of getting some things done, and some of the first one has been sent to Hollywood and all that, and it's a process. So anyway, writing is really my passion, and I'm just really looking forward to expanding on this. As of now, I am a retired, hallelujah, employee of Fayetteville State University. I was there for 30 years. And prior to that, I traveled with my husbands. I had to in their military journey. My husband that I was married to last, he passed away in 2010. I'm from California, and my dad, kept asking me when I was coming home, but I really found a niche here in North Carolina, in Fayetteville, even though I'm from a big city like the Bay Area. Go 49ers. And I really long for the big city, but I've become really acclimated to this area. I've met so many wonderful friends, and This is where I launched my book club, which has been in existence for 20 something years. How where I really started, even though I've always written for many years, even when way back in high school or even before then. But really my literary career began and started off here. And Dr. Norma, I always call her Norma. I have to say Dr. McLaughlin, but it's Norma. No, I call her Norma all the time because we worked at the same place. So that's how I was introduced to Dr. McLaughlin. And then after she left and I guess devoted her time in her own school, it was many years had passed before I saw her again. And it just happened to be at a literary function for some other good friends of mine. The literary journey has brought me together with so many people and renewed old friendships. And we were at this event. It was in Fayetteville or Hope Mill, not Hope Mills.
I think we were in Rayford.
Yeah, it was in Rayford. Yeah. And of course, I probably didn't have my glasses on, but I remember Norm coming to me and say, "I know you know who I am." I'm like, no. I'm like, oh my God. And so Jackie Thomas, who is a friend of ours, common friend of ours, she, thought she was introducing me to Norma, but I've known Norma for years, it just had been a long time since I'd seen her. And so from that, Dr. McLaughlin asked me to join there. She was starting, I don't know if they'd already began, but to come in and be with their group, the new I want to say New Vision. That's my other group. I have too many groups. I can't remember
Chosen
Pen, and come in as a mentor. And, I thought honestly, I thought I was just going to be there, for the one night. Next thing I know, I was there for a year, and then it was 2 years, But the people I mentored, they were such beautiful people, and honestly, they gave me a high, if I can say that, because they were just so gullible, or not gullible, but so greedy for the information that I had. That's an author thing, I have to go with my adjectives. And so anyway, I met with them for hours at Barnes & Noble. They bought me, everybody know I'm a Starbucks fanatic. So, I drank a lot of Starbucks coffee, but they would meet me for hours and hours till I said, look, I really got to go. But it, just warmed my heart when I saw their stories. And I still talk. Even though I hadn't talked to Norman in a long time, I was still talking to Doris. I was still talking to
Florence.
Florence, Florence would come to my house and we'd sit and talk for hours. And so, I knew that these ladies were serious, and Darlene, and they were serious, girl, I'll meet you here. Mrs. Zetta, could you do it? And I just loved it, and for authors, we ought to, I know how my beginning was when I started out and asked for help. And these, authors, the ones that did, were so kind to help me and give me direction. And, authors helping authors, that's what I do. I have mentored so many people and what have you, but I find it so fulfilling. Now my story, because I can go. I'm a talker, Dr. Short, and so I can go on and on and on. And but anyway, so going to my story, talking about forgiveness. The name of my story was "What Looks Like Brand New Shoes," and the reason for that title, my character, one of my main characters was Bishop Dresden. That's what forgiveness looked like to him, brand new shoes. What happened, just a quick little snippet of my story is that here's this man who's been married to the love of his life, Eunice, for 25 years. And all of a sudden he got the little itch. You know how it happens, and he was looking for a little more spice, what have you. He thought he did, somebody just turned his nose up. And so he leaves his wife. But, God always have a way to make you confront your sins. Okay. And so as he was on his way, you know, my story begins in Fayetteville, Raleigh actually, and then it goes to supposed to be going to Atlanta. But on the way, things happen, and he was in a terrible, terrible accident. And I don't want, like I said, I don't want to tell the story, but anyway, you know, the first person who's going to come was the wife, and that's probably who the doctors called because she was probably next to kin somewhere. And here it is, the wife, the sister, you know, even though the sister was telling the wife what most people told me, because I've gone through this. Okay. So I can tell a story like this. And a lot of times that's what happens, even though, because mine is a work of fiction, as Norma mentioned, that there's nonfiction and fiction, but in my fiction is embellished, even though that was not necessarily my story, but I know a story like that. I've lived a story like that. So, you know, I could tell it. But the wife, you know, who was a God-fearing, loving Christian, you know, even though she had her druthers and she would no pushback, you know, and she still loved her husband, you know, because the very first scene in the story is where he's leaving, but she's out in the street, you know, all the neighbors could see her, and you know, she's begging him not to leave, but in the end, you know, because she know that he begged, but you know, she gave him forgiveness for what he did. And that's all I'm going to really say about that.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, we don't want to tell all the whole plot because
it is a wonderful story.
It sounds like a Lifetime movie, or would it be Hallmark? Would it be more Lifetime or Hallmark?
And actually, I thought about, you know, maybe taking that and stretching it out and doing doing a script for it, you know, but elaborating on it some more. Yeah,
it does. It sounds already. You've set this tone. It sounds like a stage play. It sounds like something that I would sit in my bed on a Saturday afternoon when it's rainy outside and watch on either Lifetime or Hallmark. Miss Uzetta, if someone wanted to secure any of the books that you've written, because you mentioned earlier that you've written 17 or 18 books or something to that effect, do you have a specific, do you have your own personal website, or should they go to Amazon, or where can your books be bought?
I mean, I do have a website, but they should go to Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. Okay. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I used to be so people can find you. Tell us, give us the names of one or two of your other books.
Okay, my recent book is Fallen Leaves. That's the last one I wrote. And Fallen Leaves, well, you know, we went through a pandemic beginning in 2020. And so I wanted to write a story about the pandemic. I didn't really know how to I was going to approach it. And then, of course, Black Lives Matter happens. Black Lives Matter was already going on, but it was heightened by the death of George Floyd. So I wrote a story about a character. Her name is Gypsy, and that's not her whole name, but anyway, Gypsy. And it's her journey as she goes through the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, and actually finds what her purpose is in life. And it is really a good book. I mean, it's really get, you know, some good reviews on it. And I think that you would like it because I used a lot of real stuff in there that happened in Fayetteville. That's begins in Fayetteville, and then she expands. And you see her expanding because she starts at at a lowly place. You know, she worked at Waffle House, and of course, after I wrote that, I see 50,000 Waffle Houses, you know, and I've interviewed people and what have you, you know, and we want to be in your book. So I've taken pictures of people in the Waffle House, you know, but she really finds her purpose. And I'm not going to say any more about the story, but please get a copy up. Get a copy. You'll love it. I'm in the process. This is my last thing I'm going to say. And I'm in the process of writing the sequel now.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So here's the thing I want our viewers to understand. We've said this in previous episodes, but one of the things I absolutely love about Chosen Pen is the relationships that were established. You've heard Miss Uzetta say herself, her relationship with Dr. Norma began outside of the literary world. It was in a different capacity, but they both had the love and the interest into writing and publishing and things of that nature that brought them back together. And she has not only, Miss Uzetta has not only been a contributor to books written and published by Chosen Pen, but she's written things independently. So we have collaborative relationships. I like to say we create winning teams and collaborative relationships. So you don't have to necessarily write a book that's published by Chosen Pen, but if you can bring value, if we can bring value to others in the literary world and vice versa, everybody wins. So thank you, Miss Suzetta, again, for accepting the invitation to talk a little bit about who you are and what you've done and how you've made a contribution to the success of Chosen Pen and books published by Chosen Pen. And then we may come back to you because Dr. Noma may have a question. So Miss Nicole Smith, all the way again from the All-American City, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Hello again, my friend. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now we've learned a little bit about who you are in previous episodes, but just in case someone's watching that may not have heard it, give us a little bit of information about who you are, what you do, and then let's talk a little bit about your manuscript or your chapter in this book, Free to Choose Forgiveness.
Okay. My name is Nicole Smith. I actually worship with, I was fixing to say first. I actually worship at New Life Bible Church. So Norma McLaughlin is actually my first lady. And so my first 3 books that I wrote was published by Chosen Pen. And so, well, a couple of more of them, but it's definitely the first 3. She is my first lady, but she's also my friend, my mentor, my mom, my whatever I need. Whatever I need, that's what she's going to be. She's been there in the good and the bad. But so I have written 10 books, and one of them is the anthology, Free to Choose Forgiveness. And so most of actually, I didn't start writing any novels until I did the anthologies. And I'm like, oh, I like these because most of my books are devotionals with study guides and workbooks to go with them.
Okay, so you said was your first introduction to writing this anthology project?
That was not my first, no.
Okay, outside of the Bible studies and things of that nature.
That was the first novel. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. Tell us about your chapter.
Okay, so this is the second anthology that has the novel in it. There was a first one, the very first one. It's like fire shut up in my bones. This one, my chapter is called He Said Yes. And without going too much into it, there's a young lady who realizes that she actually has married the wrong person, and they get divorced. She realizes it too late because the person that she was really interested in, she had to break his heart and things go on. But to make a long story short, she is now the mother of 4 children. And she's realizing that she can't really move on because she has to go and forgive her ex. But she let years go by. She never mentioned anything to him, and all of a sudden she gets a call and he wants to come back. And without going too deep in it, she's had to kind of cut that off, but he's one of the ones that she has had to forgive. And so this book is on forgiving others.
Gotcha.
And so there's another book called On Forgiving Yourself, but this particular one in this anthology is Forgiving Others. So he's one of the ones that she has to forgive. The other one is she has to forgive her children. There's a couple of more people she has to forgive, but before she does any of that, she realizes that she has to forgive, and the way she finds out is through a $20 bill.
Okay,
and I'm gonna leave it right there.
All right, that sounds interesting. Dr. Norma, it sounds like, and of course you could better speak to this, but it seems like just from my conversation with Miss Suzetta and Nicole, and even the people that were interviewed on last week, that there's very likely a story that somebody can resonate within the storyline, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. There is something that everyone can probably relate to. Is that correct?
That is certainly correct. when we will look back on the book itself, you will see that it covers all types of forgiveness. No matter where you are and what you need, there is a story there for you. As we say, as we pray and put these stories together, we ask God to lead us and guide us to make sure that we are doing or we're staying in his will with these stories. But sometimes you're just in awe in how they all come together and how they fit together.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. And you oftentimes have said that the things that we face in life, the challenges, the testing, the good, the bad, the ugly, they don't always happen to us, but they happen for us to be able to help someone else. And so to take that content and to put it in a literary format, whether we make it a personal testimony or a Bible study, or whether we create a work of fiction, it all serves not only us from a therapeutic standpoint, but it actually can serve as therapy for someone else. Is that fair to say?
Yes, definitely.
Nicole, tell us where we can find your books. Now, you sound like Miss Suzette over here. Y'all just writing books up a storm here in the city of Fayetteville. Where can your books be found?
My books are actually on my website, openedpalms.com. And they're on Amazon too. But I try to steer them to my website. And so they can be found on openedpalms.com.
And that's palms with an S on the end?
Yes, and the opened is with an ED.
Okay, opened. Okay, gotcha. We'll make sure that everyone gets that information and it's scrolled across the bottom. So here's the question I will ask. Is it fair to say that this book is pretty much for any age category? Would it be only for adults, or could it be maybe for preteens and teens to read as well? How would you categorize this book, Dr. Norma?
I would put it as youth, older youth, and adults, of course. We have some preteens who would probably be able to read the book. I don't know if they'd be able to pull out all the nuggets or they have the experiences that they need to have the nuggets. But if God is having them read them, then of course, I would think that there is something there for them. But yeah, I would say, would you all agree, young adult through adult?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes.
So, Lady Norma, Dr. Norma, last statement question for you is, why is the message of forgiveness so important?
Because, well, if you're looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, there's no way you can go to heaven without forgiving. If you're looking at it from other standpoints, such as mental health, you have to look at forgiveness as far as your health is concerned. We know we are, as I say, forgiveness is the foundation for mental wellness. But when we're dealing with sickness, when we're dealing with stress, we're dealing with high blood pressure, we're dealing with diabetes, all of these have a link to forgiveness in today's theories and literature. But also in dealing with our physical health, we know that we have heart problems. And as I just said, those are your physical problems. We have the stressors that we know, and anxiety that usually stem from some point in our life that we're stressed because we need to forgive someone, or we need to forgive ourselves about something that is happening in our lives. So it's the foundation, no matter what we're doing. I'm doing a big thing right now for boys with absent fathers. My whole thing is to be able to see these young men who are running around with grudges and hatred and so much malice in their hearts, to forgive their fathers and replace that with love in society. And I think we'll see a big change in our young men if we can get them to show love, as opposed to having that hatred for their fathers that they've never known and probably will never know or never see. But there is another way. And that way is a turning point, and a turning point for all of us to see if we get rid of, we say, that bitter root, the bitterness, the anger, and the things that we use as a daily guide, and turn that around to love and peace.
That's good, Dr. Norma. I know that when we initiated this conversation regarding forgiveness, we didn't discuss it from a literary standpoint with regards to stories and how stories can point us to a lifestyle for forgiveness. We talked actually and interviewed mental health therapists, life coach, spiritual leaders, and even physicians about forgiveness and this connectivity to how it affects us mentally, relationally, etc. So that was for me very eye-opening. Now to take it to another level and to take these concepts, these precepts, these and placing them in a literary form so that people can be engaged by the information that's shared, maybe even entertained by the information that's shared, and by way of being engaged, educated, informed, and even entertained, they can better understand why forgiveness is so significant to our quality of lives. So I commend you on being very adamant about your platform and all the creative ways you're taking it outside of the wall of the church. You know, Nicole mentioned that you are a first lady. I know you and your husband have been very active in ministry for what, 30, 40 years now.
Yes.
And a lot of time,
5 years.
45. Well, congratulations. And oftentimes, as I said earlier in the broadcast, forgiveness is considered a principle or precept that's just taught in that sphere. But because of what you have done by way of the book, Free to Choose Forgiveness, by way of what you have done, Miss Suzetta, in your story, and Nicole in your story, and several others, and we're going to interview 2 more tomorrow. Because of the work that you're doing with this platform, you're taking the message outside of the 4 walls. And that's truly where the message needs to be spreaded, because if we want to have a better community, better families, better communities, better cities, better states, we all need to understand how to create better quality of lives. And we are free to choose forgiveness as one of those strategies. Any last comments, Miss Suzetta and Nicole? Any last comments or statements that you'd like to leave with our viewers?
No, I just, again, I thank you for the time and the opportunity to share. But forgiveness is real, and what you said, is so important. In order for us to get to heaven, for us to enjoy life, we have to forgive because time is of the essence. Time does not wait for anyone, and if you don't forgive, if forgiveness is not in your heart, you, like you said, it could be detrimental to your health, to friendships and so forth. So anyway, I am glad to have been able to write about forgiveness, even in my story.
Thank you, Miss Suzetta. And again, for those of you who want to meet her in person through her literary works, you can find all of her books on Amazon. Just find Suzetta Perkins. You do use your real name as your pen name. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Find her on Amazon. Nicole Smith, any last comments from you?
I just wanted to say a little bit about, even with the forgiveness, I'm learning as I grow that it is not a one-time thing. You forgive this person and you have moved on. Situations come up and it's somebody else that's going to come up and you have to forgive them. It's not so much that you have to go back 10 years and forgive somebody, but it's like issues come up and they're created. And I think that's what God constantly lets us know, that we do have to forgive. But because we're just now learning some things, I can say personally, sometimes in some of the ways I've had to go back. But as I'm moving forward now, I'm noticing now there new things come up and I have to forgive. But because I have educated myself a little more and I've experienced a little bit more, the hardship and the pain is not as detrimental, not as hard as it would be if I did not quickly forgive. Now that I understand, that's a better word. Now that I understand it better, it doesn't make it easier, but I definitely am without excuse.
That sounds good.
I've learning that has really helped me, not just to forgive myself, but also to teach others how they can quickly handle that and not allow the mental issues to come in place. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to be down and depressed, but you don't want to live there. You don't want to stay there. You want to get up and go ahead and do what you got.
Sounds like you're speaking to a lifestyle of forgiveness. The forgiveness is a lifestyle. Forgiveness is a lifestyle. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about Nicole Smith and all of her awesomeness, you can again go to her website, Opened, OPENED, palms with an S on the end, like palms as in the palm tree.com. It's scrolling on the screen. Dr. Norma, any last comments from you as the CEO of Chosen Pen, as the the forgiveness guru, as the first lady, as every hat that you often wear and you wear well. Anything you want to say as a last comment to those who may be watching or viewing later?
No, but I mean, yes, I do. I want to just say thank you again to each of you for being here. I want to thank you as we help propel and push this forgiveness agenda forward on new platforms and the things that we want to do to spread the word throughout our society, not only through nations, but abroad as well. And I love, Nicole, you said forgiveness is a lifestyle. That's one of the things that I've been really pushing lately, that you just don't forgive once, because things happen to you throughout the day. And if you want to stay at peace and find peace and love, you have to practice forgiveness as a lifestyle. And stay tuned. We have a lot of things coming up. Stay on board.
Exactly. Well, thank you again, ladies. And on next week, and for those of you who may be viewing and or watching the replay, don't forget to stay in touch with Chosen Pen Publishing, as Dr. Norma has already stated. Be sure to join us next week. Same place, same time, because we're going to talk to introduce you to two more authors who are a part of this Free to Choose Forgiveness anthology. They too have stories that they've written that were a part of the and I believe this became an Amazon bestseller. Am I correct, Dr. Norma?
I think this was the international bestseller.
International bestseller. So we look forward to you joining us next week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. So if you miss us live, you can always go back. Next week, we're going to continue the conversation about forgiveness via the anthology Free to Choose Forgiveness, but we will be continuing this conversation throughout February and even March, because in March we'll be headed to South Africa to take the message of forgiveness across the borders. And so we're excited about that. Remember, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find us here on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube page to always catch up with what we're talking about. Stay connected with us so you'll know what Chosen Pen is up to, and you too can join our family of literary gurus in whatever capacity for which you serve. We are extremely thankful to have you as a part of our family tonight, and for you watching us and your support each and every week. Have a great Monday night, and we look forward to seeing you next week.